Okay, so you might be wondering what the hell am I doing? So this was supposed to be a video for my birthday, October 23rd, 1999. It would be thematic, but that didn't pan out because of personal reasons and college reasons and such. Then I said quickly, what if I make this a Halloween episode? Ooh! And I bought a costume and such, but no, that didn't pan out either. So yeah, this is a non-festive top 10 with my non-birthday cake. It's a donut, and it's not even like a tasty looking donut. In my non-Sans costume, because this isn't Sans at all. So yeah, it's not a festive thing anymore. It's just a video. I can make it about Thanksgiving and say that I am thankful for 1999. Wow, that's an idea, I guess. I don't even want to touch the donut because I think that the latex from the gloves will make the donut taste worse than it already probably tastes because all the frosting. You're supposed to cut 1999. One of the most iconic years. It had a great showcase for movies. It's name dropped in many pieces of work like songs and albums. And it was a transition into the 2000s, the end of a decade, a century, and a millennium. It also just sounds pretty cool. 1999, that's catchy. And the music, man, the music was so okay. Somebody. The thing about year-end lists for years I didn't get to experience for myself. Hell, I was born in late 1999. I only lived through the last 2 months of the year and I was just a teeny baby. Is that I don't really know how the music scene was back then. In this video I will mostly just end up comparing and contrasting with how I perceive the top 40 charts today and how the artists are doing right now. I'm just confused by how some of these songs landed here. There's iconic hit after iconic hit alongside songs that really didn't stand the test of time at all. I found this list mostly boring than outright bad. In fact, it's actually pretty similar to this year's year-end list. And if I wanted to make a worse list, I've barely had enough material. But of course, like every year, there's a ton of special gems. So we're gonna talk about those today. So hey, Rockstar, let's get our game on and go play. I am going to hell for that one. We're counting down the top 9 best hit songs of 1999. Oh yeah, this is a top 9. Why top 9? I don't know. It fits. Top 9,999. It's just sonically pleasing. And also I had nothing to say about number 10, which would be Jamborees by Naughty by Nature. It's a good song. It's a good song. What else can I add? It's a good song, a fun song. I don't think people remember this one. We're counting down the top 9 best hit songs from 1999. Number 9. Remember when I told you I'd be bringing current tropes into discussion? Well, I got the horses in the back. Horse stock is attached. Yeah, sure, the first country rap hit song ever made. I see people have no culture anymore. The 90s was full of corny, guilty pleasure hits that you either hated or loved. This is definitely one of those, and even then I don't think it's considered one of the better Will Smith songs. I mean, it's no Summertime
Put your car on cruise and lay back, cause it's summertime.
or Men in Black
Title held by me, MIB, means what you think you saw, you did not see.
or Nicky Jam World Cup Anthem.
For the love, I'm a rep where I'm coming from. Every nation under the sun.
That man has made some of the shittiest songs, I swear. But the song Wild Wild West doesn't deserve much of the backlash it got or a Razzie for worst original song. Not that the Golden Raspberry Awards aren't just a bunch of hacks, but that's a story for another day.
James West, Tame in the West, so remember the name.
Well, anyways, this is just a fun one. I just like how Will Smith rapped back then. There's few TV intros as good as the Fresh Prince theme, and he brings the same goofy yet charming flow he had in the 90s to Wild Wild West. And Will, just like Lil Nas did 20 years later, is relying on a sample here. Now, Young Keo reworked a 9 Inch Nails song to make the Old Town Road beat, which only barely resembles the aesthetic they were going for, and meanwhile, Will and producer 8-Bit decided to sample Well, it's about as western as Nine Inch Nails. This is one of those movie theme songs that were way bigger and better than the film they came from, even though the lyrics are just all about the plot.
In the West, love less, kidnapper down, nothing less.
It's a young, wild and free of the 90s in that regard. Young, wild and free West. Let me clarify. Wild Wild West the movie is things I watched it like 5 years ago. I didn't rewatch it for this video just to talk about the song for like 3 minutes. It's just pretty bad and stupid. Kenneth Branagh was legit embarrassing in that movie. It's not as good as Suicide Squad, but it's better than After Earth, somewhere above YouTube Rewind as well. I didn't see Gemini Man. It's probably worse than that. What a weird, terrible decade this man has had.
Wild Wild West.
Number 8. Number 8, Kill My Brother. I'm not sure how the 90s boy band wars are looked at nowadays. Were they dumb? Were they less important than people made them to be? As an outsider, they do look stupid because how the hell were the Backstreet Boys decided to be the winners by default? Sure, Bye 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 is alright, and NSYNC gave us Justin Timberlake, who has been mostly great. Until recently. On 98 Degrees. But Backstreet had the fun jam and the love ballad on logs, so overall that whole battle was just pointless. They were the superior boy band and all things considered one of the best acts of the 90s, creating great song after great song, becoming pioneers to the genre. I'm just talking out my ass here, let's not get ahead of ourselves. They're fine, their music is fine, although I need to give them props for still being around 20 years later. That's like 5 times more than a boy band usually lasts. And amongst them, there's always been a hint of maturity, you know? They're like the middle point between Boys to Men and NSYNC. And most of the time didn't have those nasal teenage vocal inflections that other boy bands had, like You're Insecure or It's Gonna Be May. They were grown-ass men and their impeccable writing reflected that. What? Huh? They didn't write this song? Oh, well, at least the lyrics themselves are pretty good, like, the fire, desire rhyme scheme that's totally played out.
You are my fire, the one desire.
Okay, yeah, I'll be honest. You know why this song is good? Because it's good.
Don't wanna hear you
I don't know, this is probably just a guilty pleasure more than anything. I don't even like late 90s ballads. I hate Boys to Men. Like, I don't know, I want it that way. It's a bop. And if you don't already love it, I don't know what to tell you, you just gotta give it up for that good kid change, man.
I want it that way.
Number 7.
It's time to fuck up the whole gang.
I feel like I've done this story about sampling before, how it's great to have a track being transformed into another track and how there's this stigma that any sampling is just lazy stealing or ripping off other people's music. Funny enough, rap music in the 2010s has been both the best and the worst when it comes to sampling. The worst cases being more in hip-hop pop crossovers, replaying recognizable melodies for the cooks. Pitbull is both a blessing and a curse to humanity. One of the most hidden interpolations was Bad Things by Camila Cabello and Machine Gun Kelly from a few years ago. Do you remember this song?
Am I out of my head? Am I out of my mind?
I think at the time I just called it mediocre, passable, serviceable, not as awful as people made it out to be. Well, let me tell you, this song is complete horseshit. Alongside Eminem's Revival, this was a track that pretty much killed the hip-hop pop crossover. It's just terrible, especially since it turned out like Camila was one of the worst singers working right now, and Machine Gun Kelly was even worse when it came to being a credible rapper. And also, what I didn't get it at the time, yeah, I now get it. It's totally, nearly, really ruined Fastball. I do get it now. That's a great song. Since Fastball kept it short and simple, I'll keep it short and simple. This song rules. It's worth noting that most of the songs in the 1999 year-end last about 5 or 6 minutes. Back in the era where radio was still the main source for music listening, when I guess we didn't have as short of an attention span, songs were longer apparently, so out of my head having half the runtime of 2.5 minutes long is both a blessing and a curse, since it doesn't really get old yet. It has way less time to make an impression, but luckily it does.
Sometimes I feel
when it's not sung by some breathy chick with the lyrics changed to sound like an edgy, slow tempo cover for an epic movie trailer like in Bad Things. The hook is really great. It's so good they just have a verse, have the hook, have a small instrumental break, have the hook again, have that thing where the piano goes like, you know what I mean. Have the hook yet again, and then it ends. That's simple. It's a pretty great, short, human breakup song that captures regrets and mistakes, making it in the most fragile way. The kind of song that just presents itself for a bit and leaves, yet immediately gets stuck in your head. Oh my god, that's so ironic. Machine Gun Kelly is just the worst. Number 6. And speaking of music trolls with a stigma, do people still get bothered by Elton these days? I don't know, in the top 40 nowadays it's getting less noticeable, and when it is, it's actually not that terrible. In fact, I said before, some artists like T-Pain and Travis and Kanye and Lil Nas X use them to enhance their voice and produce entertaining and all-layer music. I don't know, I don't want to be mean, but hating on L-Tune as bad as it sometimes can get, like by default, hating on it kind of makes you seem old. Which is funny because one of the pioneers of the fact was in her 50s when she first released her biggest hit that used all the autotune, just all the autotune, man.
Do you believe in life after love?
I am not the biggest connoisseur of Cher, but I can most certainly say she's definitely an icon. About 50 years after she debuted, and she's still revered and respected by the music industry and the public. In many ways, some of her contemporaries aren't. She's just a commanding, elegant presence, and her surprisingly most famous single, Believe, is proof of that. This is not her first comeback even. Just 10 years before, she has struck the world with her mega successful and impactful If I Could Turn Back Time, but Believe is her biggest by far, nearly 4 decades into her career, and she could revitalize and revamp herself without it being awkward in the slightest. Madonna at that stage is working with fucking Maluma 3 times in 1 year, and that isn't even her 10th biggest embarrassment she's done.
Really don't think you're strong enough now.
Her vocals are robotic, cold and godly, but also somehow human, warm and fragile. She's so good in this. Surprisingly, for one of the first hits to use the effect, the autotune is comparatively more seamless than it was 10 years later during the 808s and Heartbreak and Kesha era. I genuinely didn't hear anything different when I was younger. Autotune can make bad singers good, but it can make good singers great. Not only was this the introduction to one of the most used techniques of the 21st century, it was also a send-off to a previous music genre of the 90s of dance pop. After this song, there was a decline of the fast aero dance beat popular at the time, until the start of the next decade where more club-centric dance songs popped up again. Regardless of what you think of those type of songs, you gotta admit, it went out with a bang. The hook was written in 1990, and the rest of the song was being constantly written and scrapped and reworked throughout the rest of the decade until it was completed in late 1998 and recorded by Cher. It was a song that needed nearly 10 years in the oven to be perfected, and it was worth the wait. The whole song is so elevating and superior, it almost doesn't feel like a breakup song. It's so above that, it's the opposite out of my head. The beat might not be the most interesting, although I cannot lie, I love that little descending guitar melody between the chorus. I get the feeling people keep doing these shitty dance remixes of boring ballads, thinking that's all you need, but no, it's a great tune with or without the dance beat. I won't say that I love them, but its slow covers are some of the few that don't really bother me. Adam Lambert did one just a year ago or so, and he killed it.
I really don't think you're strong enough now.
I still will stick with the original though. It's totally a product of the time, but it just makes you fall in love, even if you don't believe there's life after it.
I really don't think you're strong enough now.
Number 5. This would have been hilarious if this song was Mambo number 5, but what can you do? Fun fact, this song went to number 1 the exact same day I was born. So I was just the second best thing to happen that day. Man, it's a hot one. If Cher's comeback that year was impressive, Santana's was just stunning and overwhelming. I do like Santana and their work in Supernatural. I'm Latino, it's a contractual obligation. And Santana santanizes... Look, not everything can be a verb. Santana puts their stamp all over smooth. Not only is the group super tight, Carlos comes back to play his immediately recognizable guitar every now and then, and it's always different and a little nice surprise. Many songs get overly long guitar solos that are too abrasive and awkward and out of nowhere. Smooth is like a whole guitar solo that doesn't get old at all. Also, Rob Thomas kinda sounds like shit. But like a good kind of shit. The kind that squeezes by fast and you realize that, wow, this is a terrible analogy, I'm so sorry. But yeah, he wrote this and he totally sells his weird lyrics about feeling like the ocean under the moon. Pretty sure that just means that he's wet, you don't have to be so poetic about it. His vocals definitely have this raw, sensual gravitas, especially compared to his bland work with his own band Max Was 20. It's not perfect, but it's much better than the less flawed but more stereo vocal performance of the merely decent follow-up single Maria Maria. And Smooth wins a lot of points for not having that. It is an incredible summer anthem. A Latin rock band from the 70s who were 33 years into their careers. The previous record didn't even crack the top 100 on the album chart. They really needed Un Milagro to come back to the spotlight. Not only they did that, they outdid themselves. Supernatural won Album of the Year and Smooth is regarded as one of the greatest, biggest hits of all time. And Santana kept having many hits into the new millennium, including their next number one, Maria Maria, a decent song that was, depending on your opinion, improved or ruined by DJ Khaled and Rihanna 16 years later. The band is still successful to this day. They released an album this year and it still did really well, better than some of the records by artists who have hits right now. Smooth, a legendary song, according to Billboard, the second biggest song of all time. So let's not forget about it. What we would all want to forget is that they worked with Tyga in a song like 2 weeks ago.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
I don't even know why I brought it up. I don't even know why I brought it up. Should I have brought it up? I don't know. I had to listen to it to show you. Number 4. Hey, you guys remember this blonde superstar that was huge in the 90s and then went on to be a big hit maker for 2 decades after, making a huge impact on the pop scene and helping the career of many, many artists in the way? And that superstar's name? Max Martin. I'll get to Britney in a bit, saying how Baby One More Time is her song and also one of the best debut singles ever made, but first I have to talk about the producer and writer Max Martin, who helped launch not only her career but also gave smash hits to some of the biggest pop stars of the last 25 years. In the 90s, he was mostly assisting in the boy band wars with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. He was a centrist in that sense, but ever since the new millennium started, he produced hit after hit for stars like Britney, Pink, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Ellie Goulding, The Weeknd, Justin Timberlake, and most recently Ed Sheeran. It's one of the biggest songs of the decade coming from him. While I can't quite say this is his best work, especially when songs like Style, Can't Feel My Face, and most of Ariana's catalog exist, Baby One More Time has some stellar production right from the start of the song. It slams you with that piano many times and it always catches you off guard. Plus the guitar lick, the percussion and the bass work are just on point. More than a bit though, Max Martin excels at songwriting. On the surface it's just yet another regular pop love song and nothing more. But you dive in closer and you realize this is the saddest song ever made. Britney has described the song as teenage stress, and I totally believe it. Baby One More Time is overdramatic, hyperbolic, and demands your attention in every way possible. She also called Max Martin the best songwriter of all time, and even with the amount of Bad Bloods and Bon Appetits that he has in his repertoire, I tend to agree. My Loneliness Is Killing Me is like the deepest shit ever, I swear to God. Her admittedly weak voice manages to sound both powerful and commanding. Not sure if thanks to Britney or Max or both being on their A game. Their vocals sound amazing. Keep in mind, she was 16 at the time and she could pull off all this drama. The same way today, Billie Eilish can tug at your heartstrings by downplaying her music. 20 years ago, Britney could convey a whole lot of emotions by going over the top. That being said, speaking of her age, I guess I have to mention the controversial aspects of the song. People at the time thought that this music video was really suggestive with a teenager showing her midriff in a schoolgirl outfit. I won't lie, while it doesn't even bother me that much, especially since Britney will go on to have even more suggestive videos. I do get why it can make people uncomfortable. I'm not okay with a shirtless 16-year-old rapper getting sensually massaged by half a dozen women, but most people don't seem to complain about that. Both Britney and Lil Tecca had the idea for their respective music videos. Another controversial aspect I need to mention is the titular line, which has quote-unquote sadomasochistic implications, but it's mostly just something lost in translation. Martin wasn't very good at English at the time. He thought baby hit me and baby hit me up were interchangeable, so there's that. It's kind of a shame that Britney's first single at such a young age was pretty much going to be the peak of her career. Now, I'm not the one to make fun of an artist's mental health, so I will talk about that, and I do like Toxic and other songs she has, but she's never been an artist I really liked. She said oops and did the same song again, and then continued to follow that up with a lot of forgettable, mediocre singles for the next 2 decades. Although, who knows, maybe with more listens I'll start loving them as much as I love this song. Also, god, that bridge at the end is so fucking good. It's a clever flip on the hook, and when they both merge at the end, I just love it. I'm not one to complain about the current state of pop much, believe it or not, but nowadays it's really rare to come up with a song with so much energy and grandness. In 1999, if you delve into more minor pop hits, this year was very low-key and lip at the time, even Britney's other singles. But Baby One More Time is a stunning piece of pop music that many others will try and fail to replicate in the future.
One more time.
Number 3. This one is the hardest type of song to talk about.
I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend.
1999 was surprisingly a good year for rock songs. Like the next couple of years you get Creed and Nickelback and such, and nowadays the genre is in a barren state where you only get Imagine Dragons plus some couple of decent indie rock songs. But the year right before the new millennium started, there were many rock hits I quite liked, and this wasn't quite the best one on the list, but it's probably the most rock. It's the most straightforward in style too. Not as poppy as Fastball, not as Latin flavored as Santana, of course. It doesn't have any gimmicks, it's just alt rock in its purest form. Disclaimer, RGS knows nothing about alt rock, so if there's an alt rock purist watching this video, please don't get mad if he's completely wrong yet again. I like Tori Bland's debut album, it's pretty good. This is the best song on it, of course. But the song itself isn't that special or anything. It's really good, I'll talk about it in a bit. But the subject matter in the melody is what really draws you into this song. This song is described by Stephen Jenkins, lead singer of the band, to be about a gay friend dying after jumping off a bridge, but also has said that over the years, his meaning has evolved to become somewhat of a moment of levity for the listeners. It's about putting all your problems behind, of any kind really. His intended message though was more written towards suicidal people, so that they don't, metaphorically or literally, take a step off that ledge. It's a really great suicide prevention song, being relatable to its audience without necessarily pandering to them. In my opinion at least, I think some people might think it's patronizing or such. I don't agree, but you do you. And for the most part, it really works. Its tone is a bit too, well, I don't want to say happy, to be honest. I don't want to say happy because I'm not happy, but it's not really a dour song, to be honest. But I wouldn't know how to make a suicide hit song myself, so I wouldn't really tell you what they should change. I really like it, it's a bop. Probably it's the best suicide hit song out there, although I don't know if there's that many. There's Adam's Song by Blink-182. That was a minor hit. So was Papa Roach's Last Resort, I guess that counts. Of course, there's the Logic track.
1-800, then I kill the pussy. Who can relate?
Something that Jumper shares with 1-800 is that both songs are really catchy. In some sort of sick fashion, the hook has gone in my head more than any of the songs on the list. It's super catchy and inviting, making the song more timeless. You know what's not timeless? This music video. This music video is so 1999. The fast-paced editing, dirty locations, and green color palette is over distracting. I'm surprised David Fincher didn't direct this. Where the actual music shines the most is in the instrumental bridge, which musically is the best part of the song. The build-up to the final hook is amazing, the small bass solo slowly building up with the addition of drums, then becoming a great guitar solo, and when the breakdown happens it's just such a release of energy. Then you assume the tune will just fade out, but then they bring it back so well. I can see someone call this song angsty and pandering and even disingenuous because the 90s was so ironic and detached, but I don't know, I think it's really good and surprisingly kind of fun, which is... I probably shouldn't have said that. I don't really have a way to end this segment, so I'll just point out that there's a movie where Jim Carrey plays this song, and I'm contractually obligated to bring up this fact every time I think of Jumper.
Wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. Good.
God, I love that man. Hey, did you hear that they fixed the new Sonic? That was pretty cool. Number 2. So I don't usually try to use anything other than the American charts to make my list. Honestly, I don't know why, because I don't even live in the US, so whatever. It's just what I decided to follow because all my peers were following it, so I just went along with them. But because most of the time the United States gets it so wrong, I decided to make an exception and check out the UK year-end as well. Since they usually have more hits that stand the test of time, to be honest. I don't think it really helped a lot for this year though. I only mostly got average Eurodance and way too many songs from band I'm not sure they even exist, like Steps, S-Club, and Westlife. You know these bands? Especially Steps. I have never heard of Steps, and they have like 6 songs in that year end. What the hell is going on in the UK? I only used it as an excuse to put this next song on the list, and you shouldn't be complaining. You know some of those songs that you listen to when you were young over and over and over in the wild, in the radio and such. You don't even know their names, that they can play on malls and such, but you just don't know their names. Then this is one of them. I heard it at a supermarket one time while writing this video, which is sort of ironic, I guess. Many years later, I finally rediscovered it with, well, the One Hit Wonderland from Show in the Shadows, which you should probably watch instead, to be honest. And Wonder is right. New Radicals, their only album and their only hit song, is such a ray of sunshine. It's much more overwritten than nearly all of the US year-end. I have no clue why it wasn't a hit over there. It's such a perfect fucking song. It's a kind of mix of pop and rock that gets to me. It's the kind of song that's written with the intention of being eternal and timeless. A song so optimistic that it could even beat the aforementioned Jumper in an Inspire music contest. It so easily could have been a cheese fed, but it's so charming, it's impossible to hate. The writing and composition are so meticulously planned, yet the track feels loose and free with many different converging paths without ever losing focus. It never gets repetitive, it's organized to feel disorganized. It's filled with these many great little bits where Greg Alexander does what I call falsetto ad-libs? Falsettips? Making words. The lyrics themselves are pretty good, and Alexander delivers them, again, not sounding patronizing at all. Their album is really good too. Between this song and the opening track, We Just Can't Get Enough, it especially starts in 2 really strong notes. You Get What You Give is so good. They nearly were able to get away with this in some of the biggest artists of that decade. Honestly, when one album, they're better than all of those acts. Sorry, not sorry. By the way, Alexander said he wrote this to see if people would focus on the celebrity name dropping or the political issues he talks about directly before to see what people would talk about more. Of course, the celebrity talk got more controversy because, oh, society cares less about the real important issues, everything needs to be so political. Okay, Gen Xer. Look, those are still 20 years later important issues, but it's kind of a weird note to end the song on. The lyrics have mostly all been great, rebellious and motivational lines, and the last bridge turns into cloning is bad and fuck Marilyn Manson. It's kind of bizarre. It's super fucking catchy though. Seriously, put this on your summer rapping playlist, you are not going to regret it, it's just a classic. Also, it was the credit song in Adam Sandler's Click. Kind of weird that 2 great rock songs in a row were featured in mediocre 2000s comedies. But at least Jumper got the better end of the stick. Click is just a mess, man. What could top it? I'll tell you, but first some honorable mentions. What could top it? Me. What? What could top it? I'll tell you, but first some honorable mentions. I almost said dishonorable mentions, even though this is an awards list. It's a dishonor to be in 1999. Like, no, I actually like the year, so that doesn't make any sense. Redo. What could top it? What could top it? I'll tell you, but first, some honorable mentions. I'm not a huge fan of P. Diddy and his style of sampling and producing. I have a whole lot of thoughts about how much music is squeezed out of Biggie after his death, but instead of that, I'll just say that this song is pretty good.
A little bit of Monica in my life.
It's just so stupid. 1999 was really a good year for cowboy rap. This one was so close to edging out Wild Wild West to me. Which reminds me. You know, in the current zeitgeist, it's pretty hard to think of Eminem's music, even his own music, in a positive light. But this is still pretty good, actually. I just wanted to put the Will Smith song above it. To make you angry. Did you like that? Is it like possible to not like this one at least a little bit? This song is just absolutely perfect, totally deserved to be the first solo female rap song to go to number 1 and first debut single to debut at number 1. Pretty great song, telling both women and men to beware of that thing being sex. It has a great groove and really good production. It's just I had this one song per artist list and X Factor is a little bit better, so I went with that.
It could all be so simple.
You know, last year the cult around Lauryn Hill got stronger thanks to this song being sampled in 2 of the biggest hits from 2 of the biggest rappers within the same month. Plus, every other time she's been sampled and that made me curious. See, I did not grow up into music much. I graduated from being just a casual listener like 4 years ago, so I'll keep learning about musical acts I hadn't really heard of before. Until recently, her band The Fugees was one of them. I think I had listened to Killing Me Softly. I didn't even know that song was by them until like right now. Individually, I knew some stuff about them. Wyclef Jean is that hips don't lie asshole who scammed Haiti. Brass. And Lauryn has been such a notorious public figure by not being a notorious public figure. She doesn't make much music anymore, she was in jail for tax fraud for years, and when she does perform she shows up late, if at all. But as soon as I listen to those other hits, I got it. I don't actually love the score or Lauryn's Miseducation that much, but their bodies of work that I can totally see how they became critical darlings. Most people will point her out as an expert rapper, and she definitely is, of course, but her singing voice kills it in the X Factor.
And no one ever will.
A lot of these entries have been either the vocalist isn't very great but the producers managed to make them sound good, or the singer doesn't really need to be that great because the song itself doesn't really demand it. But here, Lauryn Hill definitely sounds great. She's a really good rapper and an even better singer, which is often rare for most hip-hop artists. She really captures the anxiety and complex feelings she had after dating Wyclef Jean, that big old dummy.
How can I explain myself?
Relationships aren't that simple, they're complicated, they're tumultuous, people are indecisive and fragile, and while this is the first or last song to describe these sentiments, it's probably one of the most powerful. She perfectly boasts how hard it must be to be in a relationship with someone who won't commit, while also admitting that she herself is not perfect. Dude, I've never even been in a romantic relationship yet, I can totally see what she's conveying here. It's that effective. Not to mention the production, god I love the production to this. I mentioned before that 1989 was a year where songs were very long, most of them averaging more than 4 minutes in comparison to nowadays where you can have one verse and a hook and call it a day. This is the longest song on the list and it doesn't feel like it. Most likely because the beat is so luscious and intricate. A type of neo-soul that I just love. From the drums, pianos and organs, that wooden sample, door-like bass, you know, the little ba-doom. And just when you think a song will end, there's a pretty great guitar solo. I mean, it's no Santana. Wait, hold up. Oh yeah, no, it's not Santana. What? It might have been. It's not the craziest collaboration, and they worked together like 3 times that year. It's a fantastic breakup song. The popular Care For Me refrain is just so beautiful.
Care for me, I know you care for me, there for me, there for me.
I've come to realize that the main reason I didn't really vibe with Drake's critical acclaim Nice For What from last year wasn't because I didn't buy that he cared about all the women he was propping up, or that the music wasn't really good, or that I didn't like Bow's music, or even that I was tired of Drake. It's because I made the breakdown of X Factor sound like chipmunk crap.
Why won't you live for me, care for me? You said you care for me.
This is how the song ends. Like a third of the song is just that. And you think it gets repetitive at some point, but it doesn't. And you totally see why this resonated enough to be sampled so frequently. It also makes you see how great of a talent Lauryn Hill is, and what a shame it has been that she's mostly been musically quiet now. It's kind of tragically coincidental that my top 2 songs are from X that only had one studio album to their catalog, but to be fair, those were really hard to follow up. I'm RGS, and remember to... Wait, I can do it. Remember to RG love your loved ones this Thanksgiving, even though I don't celebrate Thanksgiving and I don't really care for Thanksgiving, but it's the festive thing I decided to go with. See you in year-end season, 2019 year-end season, not 1999 year-end season. Bye-bye.